opening moves on the chessboard. 10 seconds away from the beginning of our second tiebreak round, though. Can Javokhir Sindarov do it yet again against the world number one? That's the question at the top of everyone's mind.
We hear the gong, we see the handshake, and we are off. Magnus will open with the D pawn. That is the one that he and Vincent were discussing the most. And a pause.
And notice how there's not an immediate reaction because it wasn't the move that was being expected by Levon and Sindarov. They were looking at F-pawn moving forward. They strike in the center while Sindarov does already as Levon takes a bit more of a longer think. E5, pulling a Magnus on Magnus, trying to get the queens out as early as possible.
Yeah, and this is something that Magnus was looking at. We saw on his board with Vincent, the queen was coming out very early with black. Interesting that Levon played the same move. Vincent immediately blocked it up. He said, nope, your queen is not coming out. I'm not going to take your pawn. Magnus spending 30 seconds on this move and counting.
And that right side of our screen, right? Usually when you have this kind of a pawn formation with white on d5, black with that e5, pawn play gets decided and divided into the two halves. For Levon, he will look at a flank side attack on that right side of the board. For Vincent, he will try to do a pawn storm on the other end, pushing his C, B, and A at the right moment.
Interesting that Vincent pauses, now occupies the center. Some question mark moves on the other board, but it's going to be almost a mirror image of their game with colors reversed, where Sindarov is saying, come at me, push pawns forward. Magnus is taking space. We saw what happened in the last game, though. When Sindarov took space, it backfired. Very interesting. I think good news for Sindarov that all the pieces are on the board. Probably the same for Vincent as well, but he needs to move. Needs to hurry up.
Yeah, that's the one big takeaway from the first game, right? Sindarov has to use the clock as a weapon. He can't fall back on time the way he did. Keep the pieces on the board, keep the tension as long as possible. When there's a proper time scramble, when you get into that hyperbullet territory, mistakes will happen. You will get your opportunities.
He slowed down again, Sindarov.
That's not a good sign, David.
He's about level on the clock right now. But he needs to just apply that pressure, scare Magnus somehow. I think he's got a great opening. But any more than that, we see a pawn sacrifice from Vincent Keimer in the meantime. It's the same pawn sacrifice that Hans Niemann made against Arjun Erigaisi, but that has allowed White to step forward, gain some space. So Levon Aronian's a pawn up, but a bit cramped.
Once again, things get locked up in the center of the board here, though, for Magnus Carlsen Sindarov. As I say that, Magnus is going to threaten trading off some pawns here by launching the pawn in front of his king forward. Computer didn't like it. And Sindarov says, sure, I'll take it.
Magnus is playing for a draw as if he needs a win. He's given up pawns, opened up his own king, taken massive risks, massive committal decisions. I think he's learned from past mistakes where he did play a bit passive against Sindarov and was punished quite quickly in a previous game, but now bringing out his queen as he loves to do.
He is attacking that pawn in front of it. Sindarov can defend it. You know, it's the G pawn, you get the H pawn up the board, an idea that we've seen happen so many times in freestyle chess. But whatever Sindarov decides, he needs to make that decision quickly. H5 is what I'm expecting, but every time he goes into this pause, that's a moment of concern.
Yeah, big moment of concern. And yeah, it would make sense to just defend that pawn, push pawns forward. It would make sense to try and develop some pieces. There's no right or wrong here. Sindarov just needs to move.
That's the thing. It's not a critical moment, this one.
No, but that's the kind of paralysis that, you know, Magnus Carlsen can strike in his opponents, right? Just by virtue of playing against him. You want to double check and recheck everything.
You invoke the name and you induce paralysis almost. And in the meantime, the other board looking very stable. Vincent Keimer with space as compensation for the pawn he sacrificed. That's the right board. The left board is where the action's at. He's at least slowed Magnus down by offering a pawn of his own on the edge of the board.
It can be picked up, but that would give Sindarov some time on the other flank to go for an offense. Magnus deciding which one. He goes for neither of them. He blocks the connection between the black bishop and that G pawn. Another aggressive approach, but that pawn, it's defended by two pieces, so you can't pick it up just yet.
Sindarov should continue his plan. He wants to put his dark squared bishop on the same diagonal as the white king, and he just needs to continue being consistent. There we go. He plays it. That was what he set up, but it did cost him a few seconds. And I don't know. That's time you don't get back. Magnus, though, facing some big questions about his own king.
This is getting tactical and tricky. I suggest we do a deep dive into this position. Should we bring up our board?
All right, then diving in to Sindarov versus Magnus Carlsen, just so we can get some arrows on the board.
Huge threat.
Whoa, huge threat. Given a question mark, though, because White's king is on an open diagonal. Magnus, I said it before, he loves walking into discovered checks. He takes pride in it. He enjoys a secret thrill. Maybe not so secret, but as you say, Tanya, big threat of checkmate. A nasty pin there on the G7 pawn. This would be game over, lights out if the knight lands.
If it's Magnus's move, that's it. A checkmate in one coming in. But Sindarov can throw in a check. He could pick up that c4 pawn and then defend this. Magnus setting up the trick, but it's not very precise by him.
No.
I'm still looking at that h-pawn moving 2 steps ahead right now, kicking that knight out, defending that 8-6 square.
Both winning moves, or advantage moves, both give him a 2-point advantage in this situation. So he just needs to find either of them, and he finds the knight move with the discovered check first to pick up a pawn, and then follows it up with the h5 push, gets the exclam. Beautiful play out of Javokhir Sindarov.
I think he's striking back, you know. Magnus has just been so fast and loose. He didn't calculate at all, Magnus. He saw a checkmate threat, he played it. He didn't look at the consequences. And yeah, the good thing for Sindarov there is that the good moves were the obvious ones. That helps so much at this time format. And it was not hidden at all. Magnus was relying on this check, but maybe Black just gives up the rook, gains a bit of time. White's king is open. Black already has some pawns on the other side.
He goes for it. And
have to take it. Oh, that was a beautiful checkmate, by the way. If the Black king had moved, White would have traded off queens and on the diagonal delivered a nasty mate. That would have been nasty, but...
too pretty to not show. Do you have half a second to show that?
Let's show it very quickly.
Really quickly.
The rook had to give itself up for this knight, because if the king had moved, the white queen would have stepped forward with a check.
Oof.
Trade, and look at this, the white bishop, the dormant bishop delivers a killer blow. Black can throw some pieces in the way, the game goes on, but this is ultimately settled. Sindarov saw it, dodged it, and the game goes on.
Yeah, but we've been here before, right? From a 2-point advantage, now all of a sudden that's precipitously dropped off to less than a single point here. So Magnus Carlsen already clawing his way back into it due to an inaccuracy here of his opponent, and he's finding the right moves, getting his knight more involved in the game.
And he needs only a draw. That's the big thing. For Sindarov, he has to go all out, has to go for the win. He's sacrificed in exchange. Now he needs to prove that material deficit. He needs to prove his compensation.
I still think he's got good chances, Sindarov. If the bishop now takes back the knight, the black queen can dodge an exchange, take a pawn in the center. That looks nice and pretty. Magnus is wondering whether to take the queens off. He loves endgames, but when the dust settles, black is going to get so many central pawns. There's going to be one that recaptures, another one in the center, and that's like an iceberg just in the middle of the board, cutting the board in half.
And one thing about the younger generation is they're quick to take lessons. Look at the clock management. It's Magnus Carlsen now who's below on the clock. Sindarov keeping that time advantage, keeps the tension on the board, the imbalances, all there to play for.
Okay. Another flurry of trades. We've seen a knight go off the board. Both queens have left the board, so now we're just playing with rooks and minor pieces.
Here we go. Black should just take this pawn. He does eventually, and look at those 3 pawns. So strong.
You look at Sindarov, it's almost like he's willing himself to play faster every time. You know, he hesitates, and then he immediately goes back for the move.
There we go. Magnus opens up his bishop, which was pretty much dead on the back rank. Now it does have some life on the diagonal. Sindarov needs to be accurate. This is a key moment. He needs to find a good way to defend his pawns. He doesn't even want to move them because they control so many squares.
Do you simply grab that last remaining f-pawn on that file, develop the bishop, win a pawn, free pawn?
And then go back if you need to. The black bishop wants to use this square. There we go. It had to take a pawn first, but now it can step back and control everything. Sindarov, he's got a big advantage. He's shaking in his chair again. That's normally a sign of his confidence.
And nerve setting in as well. But he's locked in. He knows that this is his opportunity for a second comeback in a row on the same day.
Magnus just prefers playing with black. He just can't handle the white pieces. He keeps getting in trouble with white so quickly.
All right, under a minute now for Magnus, and a very difficult endgame to handle. Magnus playing this with the black side, we'd be like, he's winning this. He's taking this home.
Yeah, and maybe in an effort to kind of keep the clock pressure on Sindarov as he had in the previous games, played a little fast and loose out the gate, and he's put himself in now a tough position that he has to fight back from.
Definitely not his usual style, Magnus Carlsen, and that's why he struggled going on the attack when there was no attack to be had.
And Sindarov will be forced to trade off the rooks, which are going to come off the board. Magnus will get his other rook into the game with potentially a check.
There we go. He does trade off rooks. He can grab a pawn on the edge of the board if he wants it, but that would also lose some time, help the Black Knight come out with gain of tempo. Current material count. Black has 7 pawns. White only has 4. Yes, he's down a rook for knight right now, but that actually means that Black is ahead in material. So many pawns in this position.
You do the maths, that's 6 points for Black, 5 to boot for White. So almost a pawn advantage there for Javokhir Sindarov, and a beautiful center. The knight comes out with a tempo. Magnus immediately retreats the bishop. Javokhir has to find a way to keep pushing those pawns.
Yeah, for now, they are pinned. There is awkward tension between the light squared bishops. The bishop behind is undefended, so the most logical would be to defend it with the king, and he does that. Now he's threatening to push forward, and it's a race. Magnus's pawns against Javokhir's pawns. This feels like a 3-result position. Despite the computer preferring Black, Magnus still has chances if he's able to get a bit more time.
A bit more time is what he needs, because he's down to 12 seconds on the clock. Sindarov about 40, and he's the one who's on the push. The knight jumps forward, attacking that e2 pawn. Do you really want to give up your bishop pair? Magnus Carlsen is what he's asking.
Yeah, strong centralized knight, though, as well. And he will give up the bishop pair for that knight, but this means it's replaced by a strong bishop, too. Gonna try and make a run down the left-hand side of the board here with his 2 pawns, though. Bringing the rook over in support. Computer doesn't love it.
Magnus isn't threatening anything. Look how the Black king and bishops are so powerful here. They're all lined up, centralized. And Black can start pushing on the other side of the board. He sneaks over to attack the white rook, which moves.
And that's the thing, it's a beautiful position for Sindarov, but is it enough to get a full point? Can he find a way to break through? He has to combine the pawn majority on that right side, the 2 versus 1, the central play, the active bishops, and find a way to put all of it together to keep putting pressure on the world number 1 till he cracks.
He stops the white rook coming in and behind. That's important. Magnus made that move with 2 seconds left. Almost dropped the piece, apologized, but this is looking difficult now. The Black bishop moves in. That's a nice skewer. Keeping an eye on both pawns. Magnus is panicking, though. 2 seconds every time he makes a move.
He literally made that move with just 2 seconds on the clock. No bonus time. Now even Sindarov under the 10-second mark. Anything can happen. Expect wild blunders.
Oh, it's dominance, though. Sindarov, look at all those pawns marching forward. On the right half of the board and the center, Black has 5 pawns against just 1.
He's going for it. Sindarov is about to get this done.
He's totally winning, totally crushing. He just needs to bring his pawns forward. Bring his bishop in to defend.
He's trapping Magnus's rook, almost e3 pawn, falling with a check. He does it, he takes it.
Wow, those 3 pawns are just winning the game. No chance. Magnus tries to deflect. Oh, Sindarov though just takes it. So many pawns marching.
No, but Magnus has counterplay. It's the A pawn now. Once again, the A pawn for Magnus Carlsen that gives him counterplay.
It's a race, but it's not enough. Look at this, the bishop's moving in. The rook trying to hold the tide, but the rook is trapped. The rook has nowhere to go. If the rook moves, Black delivers a killer check. On the diagonal, it's game over.
Oh my gosh, and then the d-pawn will move forward. Magnus Carlsen trying to look for a move. He can't find it.
Can't find it. He allows his rook to fall. He pushes his pawn. He's about to make a new queen, but Javokhir is going to make a queen as well.
Stunning
with a check.
And precise. Not only a check, it will be a checkmate by Javokhir Sindarov.
Oh, wow. Can he find some checks now, Magnus Carlsen? New queens on the board. They've been reborn.
He gives 1 check, but I don't think he's going to have too many, David. The king marching up. Oof.
Oh, let's go with the king.
Anything can happen. There's just seconds on the clock. Javokhir made that move with just 1 second.
It's going to be decided by the clock. He's going to keep checking here. The white queen's going behind. Javokhir struggling to get his king out.
Oh.
Walked the wrong way.
Oh, no.
No.
It's a check. It's a draw.
Magnus doesn't find it.
He misses it.
He could have moved his queen across. He's still got chances here. The Black king has to run, but it's a fork. He's lost his bishop.
You can't pick up the bishop because there's checkmate, so you have to be very careful with Magnus.
Okay, where's the king going, though? It's walking a tightrope. Will it fall off?
No. You can't repeat. He has to now lose the bishop with a check. Magnus Carlsen is back.
He's lost the bishop with that check. Now the other bishop is falling as well. Magnus has saved it. Miracles do exist. He's run out of material here. Javokhir's only got 3 pawns left. The bishop's going to hold the gate. The Black king cannot enter. The door is shut.
Javokhir knows it as he slows down for the first time, completely winning, and then...
Oh, and would you believe it? He could do it once, he could do it twice, but he couldn't do it a 3rd time against the GOAT of chess. Magnus Carlsen holds off Sindarov and books his ticket to the grand final.
Wow, the smile on his face. Sindarov hitting his own head because he knew he had it in the palm of his hand. He was totally winning. But Magnus, such a slippery, tricky customer, saving it. What a fight that was.
I can't believe my eyes.
So incredibly close, but close is not good enough against Magnus Carlsen, just saving that game. You know, miracles, they seem to happen a lot when this guy is around. It's not luck. You make your own luck on the chessboard. He kept fighting. He kept looking for those chances, and the chances did come.